Hey, Project Aviator. We're here with the second interview with a pilot mentor for Project Aviator in our new series. So we hope that you saw our first episode that came out recently with United First Officer MJ Okada. Today we're here with Jake. Jake is a United pilot, but I'm going to let him introduce himself. Jake, your name obviously, of course, but what plane are you flying? Where are you based?
Yeah, I'm currently a 737 captain based out of San Francisco, California. My background at United Airlines prior to that, I was on the 756 fleet. That's the Boeing 757, 767, based out of Newark. And then before that, I was on the Airbus based out of Newark as well. Prior to my time at United, I flew for Envoy on the Embraer 175, flying out of Chicago and Miami.
So, Jake, what got you before you were at Envoy and before you started flight training? What got you into aviation? What made you passionate?
It's kind of a weird story because I was always kind of obsessed with airplanes as a kid. We lived under the approach path to BWI, and they would always fly right over our house, kind of coming in. I think it's to runway 33 left. You know the airport better than I do. But they'd always be dropping the gear right over our house, basically, for the most part. So I guess we live right by the final approach fix. So I had a fascination with aviation as a kid. Growing up, it kind of tapered off a little bit. We ended up making some friends in Las Vegas with a former America West pilot, U.S. Airways pilot, who was flying gliders. So I decided, hey, why don't I give it a shot? And for my birthday, my parents got me glider lessons, and I really enjoyed it. I got my private pilot glider. I flew gliders all around Nevada. And I realized I could go to school for this. I could make money doing this. And I really had a passion for flying. And I thought I was good at it. I think I'm still pretty good at it. The rest of it was from there on.
So tell us, because there's not too many people, at least that I know, you're one of my only friends and part of Project Aviator that has done gliders before. So tell me about, how do you get into gliding? Like if one of our mentees wants to become a glider pilot, how the heck do you even do that?
Well, interesting one. You got to find a glider club for the most part. There's some commercial operations out there. It's a really, really small community. So we had a glider club south of Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Valley Soaring Association. And it's a club. So you pay dues into the club, and it's not too expensive. It's a really inexpensive way to get into flying. Went up with the CFIG, a Certified Flight Instructor glider. Took a bunch of lessons, did a bunch of maneuvers like any other private pilot. You attach the glider to a tow plane. We used a Piper Pawnee. They take you up to a certain altitude. In the wintertime, it's a sled ride on the way back down. You go up to like 4,000. You pull the cord, you glide down, do some maneuvers, steep turns, stalls. You do the landings. You go up a couple more times, do it again. In the summertime, when there's a lot of heat and thermals that the gliders use to climb, much like a hawk when you see those circling, you'll be at 1,000 feet. You feel the airplane start to rise. You pull the ripcord and you circle up, and you can fly all day.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So gliding was kind of the first thing that you got into, and then how did you build your flight training experience? Where did you do any of that?
So all I had was my private pilot glider. At the time, I didn't have any real fixed swing time, and I said, well, I knew I wanted to go to college, and I knew I wanted to be a pilot. So it became looking at universities that offered aviation programs. Looked at Embry-Riddle, Arizona State, Purdue, OU, and then I heard about the University of North Dakota. I knew nothing about it. I'd never been to North Dakota before. I'd never been so cold in my life, but we went up there. And we flew up to Winnipeg, Canada, believe it or not, because it was the closest drive for direct flight from Las Vegas to get to Grand Forks. And we drove across the border. And in the summertime, that's probably how they got me. And we did a tour of the campus. And honestly, I was really impressed with the aviation program, the amount of aircraft and the facilities and the passion of the students that were giving me the tour of the campus. And it was impressive, and it was better than pretty much any of the other schools I looked at before as far as how the flight line was, and the operations. So we ultimately, I settled on going to the University of North Dakota. I did all my flight training from private pilot through flight CFII, Certified Flight Instructor Instrument, at UND, and then from there on, I went to the airlines.
Yeah, and you talked about how you were with Envoy and then now at United. And when you were at Envoy, you were a part of the ALPA union. So I don't know how many people out there know much about pilot unions, but for not just specifically talking about the union you were a part of, but for our mentees and mentors looking at regionals or mainline, what are things that pilots should look for in a union of their company or maybe a company they're looking to apply to?
I think an important thing to me is having a union to start off with. The union is who is going to negotiate the contract that has to do with your pay, your arrest rules, how often you can fly, so many facets of what we do in the aviation industry, separate from that of what we normally think of with work unions. The interesting thing about aviation is the airlines themselves often delegate tasks to the union as far as safety and FOQA data, the reporting systems, ASAP programs. So having a union is a really important thing because not only does it help ensure that your quality of life as an airline pilot is better, but it also helps to ensure that you're working for a safe company. Not to say like a company without a union is unsafe because they have other programs and the company's taking care of those things. You have a lot of corporate operations that are very safe that don't have unions. SkyWest is a great example. They don't have a union, but they're a very safe operation. Personally, I find that having a union, though, however, it just makes your quality of life better, and it ensures that it keeps the airline honest. They can't abuse you. That's definitely something that I think is the biggest benefit. There's a myriad of things, and I would recommend looking up ALPA and look up SWAPA, which is Southwest Union, APA is American Airlines Union. There's a few other airlines, smaller unions out there, and just they have websites, and you can kind of see what their missions are.
Right. And so we were kind of talking about your journey, and we've gotten that. So you were one of the founders. If you guys don't know, Jake was one of the 4 founders of Project Aviator. And people have heard MJ's answer last week, and people have probably heard me say it before. But what was your vision of Project Aviator? Why did you want to found it? And where do you see like Project Aviator really helping and influencing the next generation? Like, what's your favorite part?
I take it back to the basics, and it was kind of the thing we all talked about when we started this organization is we're all first generation pilots ourselves, so we didn't have somebody to answer the questions necessarily that we had, and maybe I would have taken a different path. I'm very happy with where I ended up in my career, but I had to find a lot of things out for myself. So I think having a foundation of people that are volunteering their time to answer questions unbiasedly and just give you the real information so you can formulate your own opinions on what you want to do with your career using the best information possible is really important. I'd like to see this organization just continue to grow and influence more, aviators, aspiring, that's the word I'm looking for, pilots coming up throughout their training, to help them make better decisions and more informed choices about where they want to fly, how they want to do their training, and maybe even change some minds. I think we all have a set path we think we need to follow based on maybe it's peer pressure from other people, trying to, you're hearing all the good things from all the recruiters out there, and you're picking a path that maybe if your eyes were open up to some other options, you might find there's something else out there for you. So yeah, I'd like to see us continue to grow and help people kind of create their own path in this industry that best suits them and helps bring them to a successful outcome and good career.
So lastly, Jake, I have the question of, I asked MJ a similar question in the first video series of not saying that you regret any decision or you want to go back and change anything, but you talked about changing minds and hearing different perspectives. And has there been an example in your career where someone just by opening your mind has changed your mind to something? Or do you have any advice for people that are kind of hard fast on, I'm going to go to this airline and this airline to kind of open their minds? Or do you have any advice on that front?
I mean, basically, I would say just kind of go back to what I just said, listen to people out there, have an open mind, do the research, talk to the people out there doing it, and use that to best formulate a plan that's going to work for you. I going back to, having an open mind. I think when I first said, hey, I want to go to an aviation university, it was Embry-Riddle. That was it. That's the one, right? And I was kind of deadlocked on it. And my father, he wasn't a pilot, but he's like, well, why don't we look at other schools? Don't just, dead set on something. So, I kept an open mind, and I ended up finding the University of North Dakota. I have no regrets in doing that, and that was fantastic. And we all met each other there, and we made plenty of friends there and a lot of connections and good networks out of that, program. Having an open mind, another thing. I think, being brought into flying gliders to begin with, even though I always was fascinated by aviation and I enjoyed it, it just didn't seem like something that I was going to do as a career necessarily. The path would seem foggy. You look online, it seemed like it had to be military, which I think the public mostly is under the assumption most guys fly for the military, then they go to the airlines. And so there's a lot of information out there, but also sometimes the information is hard to find. So I think just having a group of people around me in high school when I was started flying gliders that were in all different parts of the industry, whether that's former military, active duty military, at the airlines, or maybe they were engineers, in the private sector. It was a good foundation to kind of make decisions and kind of bounce ideas off those people, to formulate somewhat of a plan. And unfortunately, most of those guys were either retired at that point, or we're not around enough that a good enough network that throughout my career in my university days that I could necessarily bounce questions off of them.
Right.
So I would say that would probably be the biggest thing from the start. So.
Well, it sounds like they should sign up for Project Aviator's mentor program so they can bounce their ideas off some of our mentors.
I think that's a fantastic idea.
But again, Jake is one of our mentors at Project Aviator, one of the founders. If you ever have questions for Jake, you can always reach out on the Facebook mentorship page if you're a mentor or a mentee. Jake is a wealth of knowledge. As he said, a United captain. He was international FO for United, and he has a lot of experience and knowledge. So again, thank you, Jake, for the time.
Absolutely.
And again, thank you for you guys for watching this. Hopefully this is beneficial to you, and we'll be back with another interview.